Ahoy, lads, lassies, and swabbies alike. Welcome to the Good Ship No Clip. Today we're going to be talking about Wind Waker. I'm Chad Rutherman.
I'm JJ Artemis.
And I'm Andy Kennick.
The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is a game that was released in 2003 on the Nintendo GameCube, which was, of course, developed and published by Nintendo, as it is a Legend of Zelda game. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And I actually am not 100% sure about how JJ feels about this, but it is among mine and Andy's favorite Zelda games.
Not the favorite, right?
Well, it's my favorite, but...
Oh, yeah. I feel like I'm giving the most disappointing answer possible in saying that...
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of just okay the whole time. It had... its ups and downs, its twists and turns, but nothing particularly nothing that made me think it stood out as like the best Zelda I've ever played. Certainly not compared to Majora's Mask, anyway.
Right, it's definitely the best Zelda game on the market.
But, there's no question about that.
Yeah, that is objectively true. But basically, the game broke from the previous Zelda games, which were the N64 iterations. So prior to this, we had the 2D Zelda games, which looked like more or less with aesthetic design on the level of whatever console they came out on. But the N64 Zelda games both strive for like a sort of realistic approach with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, in case you're wondering. In terms of like the world design and everything. And Wind Waker drew a lot of flack when it first came out for having a cel-shaded, sort of cartoony style. And I think this is probably the game's like best strength of everything that it has going for it. The look and feel of the game is entirely set by that sort of art direction.
Okay, good. Tell me why. Because I'm aware that it was a source of controversy at the time, and I'm aware it's easily the most...
controversy?
Not that.
Oh, okay.
I'm aware that it's easily the most distinctive feature of the game, particularly given all the other similarities to other Zelda titles. But, like, why is the cartoony, like, Toon Link style that important to you?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's important to me so much as it is important to the tone of the game. Because while it does have, like... It wants you to take its story seriously. The overall tone of this game is one that is much more, like, I don't say, like, joyous, even though you do pick up joy pendants and turn them into, like, a happy, fat, smiling teacher.
It's more happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
Children's storybook piracy?
Yeah. Pirates that have, like, just, like, straight up, like...
like dumb pirates.
Yeah.
Cartoon, like, Looney Tunes
with
pirates.
striped shirts and ascots, yeah.
Only looking for treasure and never for booty.
Right.
Okay.
It's, it does have that sort of feel. I don't necessarily think that, like, it's a game that absolutely requires it, but if it didn't have it, it wouldn't be the Wind Waker. Like, it would be just, like, another Zelda game.
Like, it fits the, like, kind of, like, the aesthetic themes of Zelda games, like, all the goofy, colorful characters, and, like, just kind of fit better. Or fit well, not better, necessarily. They fit well in the cartoony art style. And, like, it allows for the characters to be, like, more expressive. Like Link, it was, like, this was the first game where, like, Link's eyes would, like, roam freely to give you hints. And, like, he has, like, those, like, cartoony facial expressions, like, oh, I was surprised, now he's sad.
If you, like, walk by an enemy or, like, a quest-specific item, like, your head will turn and slowly look at it. And they gave Link a lot more of... Like, the simplicity of the art style allowed for Link to be more expressive and more... entertaining and adorable.
And I don't know, like, I feel like that idea initially came from that art style. Because he has, like, such big eyes. They were like, oh, we can have, like, his pupils look over there as a hint.
Also, you can have him sidle up to a wall and become, like, the spitting image of James Bond himself.
Yeah.
Who squeaks his way.
Maybe James Bond Jr., that cartoon show.
God, that eyebrow. That perfect eyebrow and all of the sidling animations. I was worried that the game didn't have enough sidling, and unfortunately those fears were confirmed by the end, where I was just doing
Not enough sidling.
Not enough sidling, yeah.
Says JJ.
Yeah, not enough of a game mechanic that just requires you to hold left.
The Legend of Zelda Sidling Simulator.
You cannot make a facial
2003.
expression that funny and then show it to me exactly one time.
That's true.
I demand more funny facial expressions.
But without debating like the aesthetic style of Zelda games as a whole, you can't. I believe that you do not disagree with the fact that the aesthetic style works, and that it absolutely is like it's probably the distinguishing feature of the game.
Oh yeah, completely agree with that. I might take a little bit of issue with trying to draw a more harder distinction between the old games and the new style, like Ocarina of Time and such. It's hard for me to tell how much the old games were like initially striving for realism compared to just and being at the same time limited to like the N64 tech hardware, or whether they actually intended things to look that sort of blown up and blocky. Because I think there is a through line.
That the original game, like the 2D games,
Yeah.
Right.
I should say, did have like a cartoony aesthetic because, you know, that's just kind of how video games were back then. Like, they didn't try to make them look realistic because why even?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
You know?
in The Legend of Zelda, Link is like a 3x4 like pixel grid,
yeah,
and they had to
Spider-Man.
convey main character.
Right.
With that.
And then even like A Link to the Past is pretty cartoony. You know, you fight like pigmen and stuff.
Right.
And
Things are inexplicably pink.
right,
Yeah.
like his hair, or
Right.
if that's part of his hat, who knows?
Yeah.
But and then I do think with Ocarina and Majora, they were like, we can make games look more realistic now, and I do think that's what they were going for. And then I think with the Wind Waker, they were like, because they did the infamous tech demo of like the new like Zelda game for the GameCube, and it was like a realistic like Link fighting Ganondorf thing.
Right.
And that's why people were so mad when they like showed footage of the Wind Waker, and it was like something completely different.
Right. Like,
And
I was,
now I lost my train of thought, Chad.
Oh, Chad, what have you done?
I'm gonna totally interject now.
Okay, go for it.
I think that Ocarina of Time so redefined how people thought of Zelda and like what a Zelda game was, that even if you consider the Wind Waker's art style to be like a return to form,
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going.
right, is it's still like it goes so far against what was set up in the previous games.
Right. I think the goal was they like took like a step back and they were like, let's do the aesthetics. Whether or not they thought like it didn't look good enough in the realist, like with the technology of the time, like on the GameCube to do it realistic, but they were like, let's take it back and like make it like cartoony. Like, what would like A Link to the Past look like
On the
GameCube?
Right.
I think that's like was their leaping off point. So like they took like the foundation they had with the N64 games and tried to like put the old aesthetic onto it, and the product is the Wind Waker.
I know that most recently you guys played the HD remake of the game on the Wii U, but I feel like it is worth mentioning that on the GameCube, and whether or not this is because of the art style or not, but like the game, even from like a graphically technical standpoint, is still really impressive, because it has like they put so much attention to detail in terms of the like the particle effects. Like there's smoke effects and like the flowing, like when you pick up one of the spears from the pig enemies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they had little puffs
They
of
have
dust.
right, but they have like when you drop them, like the dust comes off the ground,
Yeah.
and
But
like
it's
they
like
have
the
like the
cartoony
streamers that
swirl
come
dust.
down, and the streamers that come off of the spear like flow realistically in the wind, and that was all. I mean, more or less, not really anything that was heavily like advertised as part of another game's graphical style, and Wind Waker pulls that off so well, and I don't know, it all just seems very tight.
Why this one? Why is it really just like the visual aesthetic that sets it apart from like all the other comparable Zelda games we could be talking about right now for you guys? I assume there's more.
Well, there's lots of really cool stuff in the game that we're going to
There's
get
more
into.
unique to it than that. Like the whole mechanic that the game is built around, which is the the world being like a post like Great Flood
Yeah.
seafaring world is incredibly unique.
Yeah, I would say that from a mechanic standpoint, the biggest difference between Wind Waker and other like comparable 3D Zelda games is the fact that it is like your open world is entirely like drowned in water. Like it's just the Great Sea. And
There's only like there aren't even that many islands.
right.
All things considered, no.
Yeah.
I should have counted the grid before coming on here. It would have been interesting to know like the exact number.
There's like maybe like 4 or 5 like major islands and then a bunch of small ones.
Right. But it gives you an absolute like a legitimate sense of discovery when you run across an island. Whether it provides you with like a substantial reward or even just like some rupees or whatever, when you're just like sailing, when you get on the boat and just like set sail and you're going toward whatever your destination is, and you see a small island off to the side and you like veer over there and hop off and blow up a rock and like drop down, there's like a little miniature dungeon with a treasure chest at the end. You really do feel like you're like a pioneer. Like I just discovered this like small island and got a reward for doing it. It's, I don't know, like to me that's a huge part of what makes this game fun.
Yeah. I say I enjoy that aspect too, but I feel like I don't know if it's like a limitation of the time, but I feel like that gets really old really fast. Because like every time you find an island, it's like the same thing. Like you get onto the island, there's probably like a little hole that you have to like find by like burning something or blowing something up.
Right.
Drop down in, little mini dungeon, there's a chest where you get like 50 rupees or a heart piece. Rinse and repeat.
This was the first time I've ever played the game for the cast. Where you guys have played the game multiple times before this. I was brought in with a sense of discovery. I really enjoyed going from island to island like that. I think one thing that really assisted in that a lot, and I think there are good and bad things to say of this, unfortunately, but using the Great Sea structure makes anything you find seem significant, even if it's very, very tiny and just like a random mini dungeon like you were previously describing, because it stands out so harshly from its background. Because like if you have a standard open world game where you're just like traversing through some kind of like generic field or something like in Ocarina of Time, the all these other things in your environment that are like drawing for your attention that create variation.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're sailing across the Great Sea in Wind Waker, there is literally nothing but these specific things that the designers wanted you to focus on.
Right. I think I agree that there are definitely bad things to be said about that. In particular, the amount of adversity that you encounter while traversing the Great Sea could be more difficult. Because a lot of the times when you run into like enemies, you can either just
sail right past
them. Like go around them or just tank the damage and keep going.
Yep. I can't say I ever stopped to like fight those bomb boats.
Oh, right.
Like, I always just sail past them.
I gotta say, I was really disappointed the first time I accidentally got caught in one of those little tornadoes, and I realized it just brought me into the air and back down again, and did nothing else. Right. It was one of the few things I felt like there was like dynamic weather existing in the game that I had to like constantly swerve to avoid. It was really engaging when I thought that they were a huge threat, and ended up not being a threat at all. It was sad.
The giant octos are the only really threat.
And those are actually really fun to fight.
Yeah, they are. But really annoying if you don't manage to kill them.
That's true, yeah. Because they bring you down.
My first thought about that is that they couldn't continue to do it all over the place for the sake of the early game, because it would be so hard for you to traverse.
Yeah.
But once you get access to the whole tornado teleportation system, it seems like there isn't a whole lot of downside to introducing more just sort of random surprise moments like the big octos.
And
Just
sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we were talking in the last Resident Evil podcast, it's the Great Sea is the perfect example of an environment in which you fully believe you know everything that's going to happen when you're out on it. You just have this literal like flat level of expectation. They could have done more with that with various like sea monster tropes. Just really,
or like even just pirate ships.
Yeah. Right? Just anything like that you wouldn't expect over the horizon or under the sea.
Yeah, and like the only
it doesn't feel like there's any danger.
Right. The one like big variable that always that is discussed at all is the whole like ghost ship, which appears
The
based
ghost
on
ship is pretty cool.
yeah, which appears based on like what the moon cycle
Yep.
and like like what time of day you're in a particular square. And even that is like so heavily discussed like by NPCs that you run across that it like kind of loses the mystery of it by the end. Yeah, I mean, before getting I feel like that the teleportation tornadoes. What do we call it? The song.
The Ballad of Gales.
It's the Ballad of Gales. After getting the Ballad of Gales, like I feel like it's actually really appropriately placed. Because you get it early enough...
It's like a third of the way through.
Right. You get it early enough where it cuts down on the tedium of sailing, but it gives you that full like part of the game where you can just
It's
explore.
right where the game breaks linearity.
Right. Because you can then hit the things in whatever order
The
you
fire
want.
and ice arrows,
Yeah.
and then the earth and wind temples.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
the temple structure. That was an interesting choice. Is it the only Zelda game that did that? That had just like a straight up non-linear section where it just essentially told you go collect 8 things. We don't care what order you do it. Come back when you're done.
Well, no, and sort of. It's
For
never
the-
been
to progress through the story. I think yes.
Yeah. But, well, I mean, if you look at something like A Link Between Worlds, it gives you 4 dungeons in low rule, and it's just like,
Is it only 4?
I think you have 4 in high rule, 4 in low?
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't-
Maybe.
it's
Yeah,
been a
you
little
can do
while,
in whatever order you want.
Yeah, you can go to the dungeons, they just, each of them requires a particular item.
That you can buy.
But you just buy the item and go there, so that actually is a huge boon to the like desired non-linearity of a Zelda game, because so many things are locked off just by like experiential things, like, oh well, like I could do this dungeon, but before I do that I have to get the bow, and so to get the bow you have to go to this previous dungeon, so they set them up in this like line that you're supposed to do them in,
Right.
which Wind Waker is absolutely that. Like, you sort of have to do things
Yeah, like the first couple of dungeons. But I think you can do the Wind and the Earth Temple
in whichever order.
in reverse order.
Yeah.
Because you just need... You go get the iron boots and the power bracelets.
Right.
And then you can go do whichever one you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else required in those 2.
Which, while what most people discuss and what we immediately began discussing when talking about Wind Waker is the Great Sea, the meat of the gameplay takes place in these dungeons, which I think that the Wind Waker dungeons are gorgeous.
Yeah, they're well designed.
Yeah.
But notably, there's only... In my mind, this is the way I look at it. Some
Right.
people might have a different opinion. There's only 2 main dungeons. Like, you have the Forsaken Fortress, Dragon Roost, and the Forest Haven.
Right.
But those all kind of feel like your beginner dungeons, you know, like the Great Deku Tree, Dodongo's Cavern, and Jabu Jabu's Belly.
Right.
And then you get to, like, the meat and potatoes, and then it's only 2 dungeons, and then you move on
Right.
to, like, the collecting the Triforce shards.
Mhm.
I feel like there should have been more to that part of the game, like the middle section.
Right.
Like, if they gave you, like, maybe, like, 2 more. Like, it feels like it's lacking a little bit of content there for me. And
Well-
that's, like, my biggest complaint with the game.
Right.
I think they were desperately hoping that the way that they had set up the Great Sea prior to that was supposed to replace that lack of content. And I think the fact that we can still feel like a little bit empty at the end of it and have this, like, lack of meat and potatoes there suggests that it didn't quite succeed.
Game has a lot
Right.
of appetizers, not a whole lot of
Right.
Yeah.
not a lot of
It's
not like
short
courses.
on the main course.
Yeah.
You're right in calling
'Cause
them
it's
like
good.
appetizers. Yeah, you enjoy sailing around, fighting all these random things, but
Well,
it's not a replacement. No
as
matter
much
how
as
many-
I like,
If there were, like, 2 more, like, main islands with dungeons,
right.
I think the game would be, like, maybe not a lot better, but, like, noticeably better.
See, I never really felt that way about this game. I always
And
left
you
it
do like it
satisfied.
the most.
Yeah,
So,
but I think that comes from like the kind of person I am that could just eat a meal of appetizers and feel like satisfied.
Yeah.
I think that like the exploration that I did in the game, which took up a pretty significant amount of time.
You both completed the sea chart, and I've never done that playing through the game.
Completed the sea chart, did all the side
to
quests.
me, I feel like that would be like a legitimate supplement if the exploration was more varied or fleshed out, because all the little spots in the ocean, the little glowy spots, always have 50 rupees.
Huge waste there.
Yeah,
God.
If they had even a spoils system like Skyward Sword has, where you have all the different items that you can use to upgrade your weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Something like that, I think could have been a huge benefit just to change it up.
Well, and they do have those supplementary items that you use to exchange for stuff that they could have put there. And they just chose
and they
not
just
to,
don't. You could find joy pendants or something.
Right.
Yeah.
But and then also all the little mini islands all just have a little mini dungeon.
Yeah.
With a heart piece or something. So if there was more variation to that, I feel like that would have also helped the game a lot. Because to me it gets real samey about halfway through the game. I'm oh, an island, fuck it. I know it's there.
Yeah. If it's not a fairy island or something,
right.
You know exactly what you're getting and how good the reward will be.
Yep. So, if you ever need to, farm rupees for Tingle or whatever,
right,
you know where to go.
That's a complaint mostly of the entire franchise, really, is that it always seems like rupees are so undervalued. It's they said it's a problem for the first 3 hours of the game, and then after that you just always have way too much.
Yep. I think the last actually 2 Zelda games, excluding Triforce Heroes,
that's going to be out when this game...
Right, it already came out, didn't it?
No, I think it's... We're dating when we're recording this podcast, and it seems unnecessary.
Well, whatever.
When this is out, Triforce Heroes will be out.
Skyward Sword and Link Between Worlds both add a lot of value to rupees, because there's actually stuff you want to buy.
Right. I agree.
I would really just love rupees as an excuse to give more money to Beetle and make him say
Thank you.
Oh man,
he is in both Skyward Sword and
with the Wind Waker. Yeah, Beetle's a great character.
He is
also a soldier secretly once in this game.
Oh yeah.
There's exactly it's about the million places he's at simultaneously. One of those places he's just disguised as a Roman legionnaire for some reason.
Oh right, yeah. I remember that.
I think my favorite random NPC in the game, which I never found because I give up on exploring halfway through the game, is there was just a Goron on this one island who wears a big old hat as a mask. It's just pulled down over his face, has a little slit for his eye. What does he just sell bombs or something? He's a huge comical cartoon bag on his back.
Right. He's a trader.
He's just the design is awesome.
Is it notably
so
Gorons
cool.
in the Wind Waker aesthetic would just look
adorable.
Just like Ocarina's Gorons, who are already
kind of
huge, simplistic faces, very cartoony look. So
yeah, because I didn't even know Gorons were in the Wind Waker until JJ was playing it. There's only a couple on random islands. I just never came across any of them.
It makes sense because the whole water aversion thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I just assumed that they were extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing that Wind Waker does extremely well. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
I just thought of something.
Yeah. That Wind Waker does extremely well that the series as a whole has always done well, and that is incorporating the same general character through lines, but making them always look aesthetically appropriate for the game. Mm-hmm. Even between Ocarina and Majora, which had literally reused assets.
Right, and they only came out a year and a half apart.
Right. You still the difference in design of just your regular enemies, Chews, are horrifyingly monstrous in Majora's Mask for some reason.
I don't even know what they look like in Majora's Mask.
They're the things in Termina Field that are big, clear, and you can see what's inside them. They have the heart.
Chews do look really different in every game.
Yeah, but most of the enemies have that, and the way that they redesigned enemies to like fit the aquatic theme of Wind Waker is so fucking good.
Fuck.
Likes. They're not in this game.
I like the what are they called? The pigmen. They have a name.
Oh yeah. God, what are they?
Snout sniffers? Because that's the only distinguishing feature that I saw them do.
That's what we'll call them now.
Yeah,
I like the way that they look in this game a lot.
Yeah, they look super good.
And they're so comical. Like, whenever you hit them, they're like, oh! Like, fall down. It's hysterical every time.
Like, the main feature is that they have, like, a huge, like, bottom lip that's even bigger than
And
their
they have, like, a
jaw.
giant puffy chest and, like, a tiny little waist.
Right.
March around with their spears and they just flop, like,
like
lip pieces.
really,
like
like
slobber and stuff,
like cartoon, like, goon enemies.
Yeah. Well, I like the, God, are they moblins or bokoblins?
No, those are, like, the little, like, goblin people.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I'm talking about them now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant, is that what they're
Right.
called?
No.
Whichever one it is in this game, the ones that like walk around that have like the comically huge knives and they
Right.
wear a vest and just like stroll about.
You're right, they have a vest.
Yeah,
Because they're pirating.
yeah, they're pirate moblins.
Pirates have vests?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, yeah,
Cartoon
pirates have
pirates.
vests.
Yeah,
Cartoon pirates have vests, JJ.
And then they had the pea hats are like blue and they like fly through the water
Yeah.
instead of like just above the water, which is cool. Shoes once again look different.
Mhm.
They're just Wobba Fett, really.
Yeah, they do look exactly like Wobba Fett.
Well, honestly, they look more like the shoes than A Link to the Past, but I don't want to like.
Oh, they do look like the
Yeah.
shoes from A Link to the Past.
Oh, does that mean Wobba Fett looks like the shoes from Link to
From
the
Link
Past?
to the Past,
Well,
but
I
with
mean,
that
Wobba
fake
Fett's
tail.
based on like a punching bag,
Right.
Yes. Yes, he is.
So
Pokemon trivia.
Pokemon.
This is like the third episode that we've referenced Pokemon at some point.
That's unsurprising.
Not really, no, yeah.
No, one thing, just something I want to bring up, just throw it in right here.
Yeah.
I played through the game, and it was, my third time going through, and I just noticed, and I think this is awesome, that Dragon Roost Island is just the top of Death Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys realize that?
I
When you
realized
told it
it
to
at
me,
the
yes.
moment that you
Yeah,
told
because
us.
it's got the cloud going around the top, just
Yeah.
like Death Mountain. I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
Right, yeah.
And like, they don't tell you; they just like let you figure it and like, make the connection yourself.
On your third playthrough.
Yeah, I'm like on my third playthrough, I'm like, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
I wish the game had more of those connectivity moments. The plot set up...
There could be that we just don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Great Deku is the most obvious one.
Yeah,
Right?
you can't call that like a secret connection between
No,
the old
it's not.
world.
It's a plot point, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the sages, like they have the Kokiri sage and the Zora sage. And the Kokiri and the Zoras don't exist
Right.
Yep.
in the Wind Waker.
Which is kind of unusual given, like,
The Sea World.
Yeah. But whatever.
Bird people instead.
Yeah.
It's just when the plot twist happened for the first time, because
Ugh.
somehow I managed to avoid
Switching to plot twist.
Okay.
Hard left turn.
Twisting the plot.
This is my favorite plot twist in any Zelda game. I think better than Zelda is Chic.
Way better than Zant. Is that a good
wasn't
name?
even a plot
Is that
twist.
even a plot twist? Is
Yeah.
Xanta's lame
Xant-
surprise?
Xant-
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. We'll talk about that on another episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, best plot twist.
I'd agree with that. I think, however, they didn't deliver on the promise of the plot twist setup. Like, you go down there for the first time, and you're like, oh man, you're in Castle, you're...
Hyrule Castle?
Yeah.
In
You're in Castle.
You're in film director
I love
William Castle.
how
It's
it's
an
like-
amazing journey.
Yeah, it's like black and white, because like time's frozen and
Yeah.
everything. Like, that's such a cool moment.
And then they never let you do anything outside of the castle and like one prescribed route directly to the
get
end
into
game
Castle.
dungeon.
Right.
Yeah, no,
I didn't want to,
see,
personally.
for
but
me, like, I also wanted to, like, explore actual Hyrule.
Yep.
That's something totally understandable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I understand why you can't,
Right.
but, like, I think that is notable that, like, I feel like most people are going to want to once they
Right.
see it.
Why? Why can't you?
Because
Because
they
of-
would have to render
'cause
all
that's-
of Hyrule.
yeah, that's like a
in
whole
the
nother
cell
game.
shading.
I understand that it would be difficult. That's not the
Right.
question
Especially
here.
at the time. I mean, like, they could, if they made the game now, they could easily do that.
It just from a narrative perspective, think of how much they lost by just only creating that
Well,
one little path.
It
there.
doesn't fit with the theme. Like, the theme of, like, at the end of the game is, like, you're leaving it behind and you're moving forward to the future. Like, I don't think they want... they I think maybe even, like, the temptation to, like, explore it's supposed to be there, but, like, you're supposed to realize that, like, you can't.
You
It's
have
like
to
the
go
will
back.
of the goddesses. Like, you can't have it back. You
Right.
have to let it, you know, like, stay below the ocean. You have to look forward.
Yeah. Think about how, like, poorly that would work from, like, a storytelling standpoint. It's like you get to Hyrule and then you're sent on... Like, they're like, please, you have to complete the Triforce, or else fucking everything is ruined forever. And then you're like, well, I'm just gonna dick around for, like, an indefinite amount of time.
In Hyrule.
In Hyrule, and then maybe go back later.
But that suggests that all of the narrative timing would be the same, and that you only have the opportunity to explore Hyrule after there's like this like immediate positive threat. And it's not like it doesn't
But, like-
already exist at every moment in every other Zelda game. When you
Right.
do, you can fish in every Zelda
What?
game.
Like, what, like, reason would there be? Like, because, like, they could have just added, like, an area that you
Right.
could explore.
Sure.
But, like, what would be the point?
The point would be to set up what happened in the interim better than just the castle did. Like all those like frozen
okay,
time
I
moments
guess.
where you have
Like,
all
if
those
like,
guys.
Kakariko Village was there and you could go to it.
Yeah,
and,
like time was
see, like,
frozen
what
and it was
happened.
like burning to the ground or something.
That's actually a great idea. Now that we're brainstorming this, yeah, it would drive home, like, the point of, like, the disaster that happened.
Yeah. If you wanted to even keep it as like it's a thing that you can't go back to, make every single zone destroyed. Make it like virtually desolate, so you still have the theme of like all of this stuff is gone, no matter how much you want it to be back.
Yeah, I feel like if you limit it to, like, one or two areas, like, that would actually be pretty effective.
Yeah, I feel like the full extent of the conversation that happened when developing this is like, do you want to, like, render all of Hyrule again in cell shading? And
No.
they're like, no, we don't want to do that.
I'm just saying, like, if they just
okay,
added,
check.
if they just added, like, Kakariko that you could go to,
Right.
and you could, like, see how, like, the flood destroyed everybody's, like, lives, as depressing as that might be.
Yeah.
Right. That'd be kind of sad, I guess.
I think that would be cool, though. It would give you more, like, motivation as a player to, like, save the world.
I suppose.
Yeah. Add tension and such.
Yeah.
Ganon, I feel... that's honestly...
The classic Legend of Zelda, like, segue, where you just go, Ganon. That motherfucker.
That was another of the multitude of moments where I feel like the game had like a great setup for a fantastic idea and then dropped the wall like entirely, like maybe not entirely. They just left it undeveloped. The idea of they present Ganon in this game, not at the beginning, but like build it up through the
You mean
midpoint.
Ganondorf?
I mean Ganondorf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
yeah,
you.
they're two different things.
Yeah.
I know. But they present that he like might not be like a horrible, shitty person anymore.
Right.
He has, because his goal appears to be like just like to get Hyrule back. His very last speech before you fight him at the end of the game is him just admitting that he sort of coveted the existence of like this whole grand palace, and then he's still just evil and wants to like rule the world anyway.
No, I
Oh, yeah.
actually really agree. Like, they had the chance to make him like a more realistic, like,
Right.
you can see where he's coming from kind of villain, and
Yeah.
they're just like, nope,
Yeah.
he's evil.
Stab him in the head.
Yeah. Because like, as like the player, you could totally understand why he would want to bring Hyrule back. That doesn't seem evil at all.
No,
Right.
not even a little bit. But he got the Triforce, and then immediately after
like,
admitting they
well,
covered it, was like,
That kind
I
of
wish to own this.
Right, that kind of fits with the theme of the Triforce, because, like, in some of the older games, like, it's kind of, like, implied that, like, almost kind of like genie rules, like if you, like, mess with the Triforce... Hold on. Like,
no, I totally know what
You know,
you're saying.
yeah, like, it'll, like, mess with your head, like, if you don't have, like, pure intentions, and it'll, like, make you, like, Gollum out.
Oh,
Yeah.
Or,
really?
like,
That's
yeah,
a thing? I didn't know
yeah,
that.
or, like, you'll wish for something, and, like, it'll like what I meant by genie rules. It'll be like what you wanted, but like with a twist. You know, like it's actually like
the cruel irony of the Triforce.
Yeah. So, but they haven't really like expanded on that because the Triforce is supposed to be mysterious.
Right.
But like that actually makes sense that it would like corrupt him.
But did it corrupt?
Or was he just evil the whole time? That's the question. Yeah.
What's the actual name of the king? The guy who was also your boat.
Oh, the King of Red Lions.
Yeah. I mean, he
the
uses
King
it
of
explicitly.
But he has pure intentions.
Sure.
I guess I'm just.
Have you seen that beard? It just screams pure intentions. He basically looks like Santa Claus.
I'm really unfamiliar with.
So it also has Sorcerer's Stone rules, where you can only use it selflessly.
Yeah.
So it's got genie rules, Sorcerer's Stone rules.
Any other MacGuffins you want to tie into the Triforce as a thing?
Oh.
At least one more, right?
The Triforce is is video games like golden MacGuffin, literally and figuratively, because it is actually golden. But I mean, I feel like Zelda as a franchise, like the lore has been like largely imposed on the game.
Yep.
And this was the first game that admitted that there was lore to be imposed on it. It was the first time to take a step back.
But I think in this game it works incredibly well, like the lore that they put in there. But I think it's become a bad thing for the series,
right?
Like it's like Skyward Sword just shoves it in there way too much. Like I like that game probably more than the average person,
probably.
But like
definitely,
it does. Yeah, definitely. But it does like it tries to shove the lore into the story too much.
Right. Well, I mean, it did decide it was going to be the prequel.
Yeah, because lore needs to for lore to be effective, it needs to be secondary to the story.
Right. Yeah, Wind Waker's lore works well because of the setting of the game, where it's like
because it's like the mystery of it being under the ocean.
It's kind of stuff that you just sort of slowly
because it's like it's lost. Like you're like, oh, it used to be there, but now we don't know what happened to it.
Right, but Zelda games
it's like the perfect setup for lore.
But Zelda games have always been more about, especially in terms of like storytelling and character motivation, in as much as that exists. Yeah, have been more about the moment to moment, and I think that Wind Waker does that really well because with a more expressive Link. And I would say it like way more cutscenes in it than Ocarina had.
Yeah,
but like
for obvious reasons,
right?
Because they could.
Yeah, we have this like the ability to like kind of look at your characters and be like, sort of you're watching things unfold and see how they react in that moment, but it never feels disconnected with how you're playing the game, and like. You were talking about how Ganon doesn't seem like such an evil character. And it's like, he doesn't seem that way at first, because the first time that you see him, he, like, just, like, slaps Link away.
Back turned to you. He
right.
Over the shoulder with him.
Like, he could have, like, there's a moment where he just, like, slaps Link away.
Oh, yeah, he
and,
totally
like, he
does.
could have just twisted his head off like a Coke bottle.
Yeah.
Like, if he wanted to, and just chose
yeah,
not
because, like,
to
imagine that you're Ganondorf and, like, a 14-year-old boy just strolls in.
A 14-year-old boy who's explicitly not, like, the hero who's supposed to stop you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how would he know?
Wasn't that the whole point? Like, in the beginning of the game, he was searching for, like, the reincarnation of Zelda and Link, found Zelda, never found Link.
Right.
I guess. But does he recognize him right off the bat?
Who recognized who?
Link.
No, because you're not a reincarnation of Link in this game.
You aren't?
No, it's very explicit. Another drop ball, I think, on the narrative front. You go through it, and they keep telling you explicitly that, like, no, he has no relation to the legendary hero. Over and
I don't
over
remember
again.
that.
And
I don't find that a drop ball at all.
Well, it's dropped because at the end, you just get the Triforce piece anyway and become Link's equivalent.
Right.
Like, you never establish yourself as a different force. You just become an equivalent of Link.
I totally, like, missed or forgot about that.
Case in point. Like, I certainly didn't realize that on my first playthrough, but it was something that, like, in my years of
Like,
reading and playing
they
this game. knowing
explicitly
about it.
state that?
Yeah, the King of Red Lions, but it's sort of semi-secretive because he always says it when talking to like one of the arcane forces of the world who rarely speak like the regular language.
And
No,
usually
they
you're
speak
passed
highly. So it'd
out in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
It'd be like a half conversation where we'd be like, no, he has no relation
Huh.
to the legendary hero.
Mm.
Do you think they mean literal relation, like bloodline?
Well, probably, but that's
Well, then-
what they're looking for anyway, right?
Yeah,
Because they
'cause
refer
I
to
don't
Zelda
think-
as a literal relation.
Because Zelda always is, because it's a royal lineage. Like, I don't think that the links are necessarily, like, bloodline related.
I don't know either, but
Because I always assume that Link in Wind Waker is just a reincarnation of the spirit of the hero.
but they don't say. It's not like that. You get to a point at the end of the game where you get the Triforce of Courage, and then the King of Red Lions like says to you after that, "Oh man, I was wrong." They don't. It doesn't have to be a
Well, I
bloodline
mean, do they
relation.
have to say that?
If they suggest that strongly that you're not related to the hero multiple times, yeah. Like,
I think that's
going-
more up to interpretation.
It's too strong. You're going against what was stated too many times in the game for you to think it's
I
a
mean-
stronger assumption.
The guys, he could have just been wrong. I mean, that's kind of also a theme.
But if you're just at that point assuming
He's all
that
like, you guys have inherited my failures. You know?
he was right with his motivations, he wasn't just factually wrong about stuff.
He could have been. Maybe he's an idiot.
Maybe the King of Red Lions. is
Maybe
dumb.
that's why his kingdom's at the bottom of the ocean now.
That's a good point. I mean, seriously, bottom of the ocean guy.
Didn't do a good job.
Not
Yeah.
very successful king.
Yeah, Atlantis lost a city. In fact, Hyrule lost the whole kingdom. It's pretty bad.
His daughter is the literal human embodiment of wisdom.
Well-
Still wasn't enough.
Yeah,
But honestly, if you are correct, which you very well could be, I think that's more interesting.
Why?
That he's not, like, Link.
Oh, no. I want that to be the case. My problem is not that he didn't start as Link. My problem is that in the end, they didn't do anything interesting that and just made him Link again.
Well,
yeah. Here's the Master
He, like,
Sword. Here's
well-
the Triforce of Courage.
he did the whole, like, he purified the Master Sword blade,
True.
which is, like, I think he earned the Triforce of Courage. I don't think he just became Link.
Yeah, JJ. He purified the Master Sword blade on foot. That's got to be good enough.
Yeah, I think he just earned the Triforce of Courage.
It would have been so much cooler if they had, instead of like setting like old Ocarina of Time Link as this thing to aspire to that he eventually then becomes, to, in fitting with the theme of letting go of the past,
Right.
make him something different and have to approach things differently than old Link did to like solve this catastrophic problem.
But the whole, like, setup of Zelda is that the same thing happens over and over again.
Then maybe
Which
don't
seems
have
like
a-
more of an excuse than a story.
Yeah, everyone's reincarnated.
Yeah.
Like, the spirit of the hero has to kill the Ganon, or has to seal Ganon back away.
Demise.
Demise.
Completely off topic. Why in Skyward Sword did they like refuse to call Demise Ganon? Is that like a lore reason for that? I don't know.
Because he's not Ganon.
But he's reincarnated. Like
He's reincarnated, yeah.
I thought Ganon was the reincarnated form of Demise.
He is.
Yeah. So Demise was the original.
Yeah, but
sin.
why don't they just like every other reincarnation is called Ganon?
Yeah, he took the name so he didn't seem as menacing as Demise.
I don't know.
I don't-
Ganondorf is pretty up there as far as menacing names.
Well, because of the implication. If I just like, yeah, I'm Ganondorf Johnson.
Yeah, I would be.
You're next
That's
door.
his last Ganon on his name. Ganondorf.
Yeah, he's just the Ganondorf Johnson, just here to borrow a cup of sugar and the Triforce of Courage.
You don't have any spare Triforces of Courage slaying around.
No,
I'm like, thanks.
I'm
This is
obviously in no position to speculate on the like story or lore of
So you
Skyward
would have
Sword.
just like
so.
preferred that he just didn't get the Triforce at the end,
Link,
even though he collected it.
I don't know what specifically. I'm not making something that prescriptive. I'm merely making a criticism of what's there. I'm not trying to construct an alternative.
Yeah, because they could have really done the game entirely the same way and just changed some lines of dialogue. Like, I wish they hadn't done the game entirely the same way, considering the Ganondorf fight is identical to the Ganondorf fight from Ocarina, but you win some, you lose some.
Wait, in Wind Waker?
Yeah,
it's totally different.
Well, like you run around Ganondorf and Zelda shoots him with a light arrow, and then you hit him with it.
You don't play tennis with him.
No, yeah,
you don't with his shadow multiple times,
several times through the game.
But at least that's not him himself.
Another great example of a good build-up is that I thought I was being signaled for something like really new and awesome near the end of the game, because they were using all the Ganondorf tropes in like these shadow figures that were leading up to you finding Ganon. So it was like, oh man, if they're doing this already, then something else is going to happen when I reach there. And then it was just a sword fight and a really awful pre-final boss fight.
Yeah, we disagree on that.
Yeah,
but,
I think Puppet Ganon's one of my favorite Zelda bosses ever.
Easily the least favorite Zelda boss I've ever experienced and can't remember.
Wow. That's true.
Yeah, that's why I asked you when we went.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was a
I told him, I just asked him what his opinion was. I just wanted to I like it or I don't, and to save the rest of his opinions for later.
Right.
And he said that he liked it, so.
I don't know, before we get into that.
Because, I could talk at length about why Puppet Ganon is good.
And we probably will.
Yes.
But, I feel like if we're just to, kind of stop talking about, the story and get more into how the game plays itself.
All right.
I feel like Zelda is the type of series that always wants to be hey, remember in the last one? Hey, listen. Do you remember in the last game? We're doing that again. Where some games can pull that off and you're oh, what a cool throwback.
Yeah.
But then
it's expected.
But it's the Zelda's whole thing, so it gets kind of old.
I mean, that's the reason that we didn't immediately talk about it, right? We didn't latch on to mechanical differences because there weren't really, really interesting mechanical differences.
I think that there's one key mechanical difference that makes Wind Waker my favorite.
What?
Well, how about
I'll tell you
after the break?
Okay.
Let's take a break now and then come back and talk about some. Is there a trivia question you want to ask? Alright, we're on break. I mean, we're going to be on break once the Steam controller turns back on.
Oh,
this episode brought to you by the Steam controller.
So, Chad.
Yeah. Oh, wait, are we back?
Yeah, are we back? Holy shit, we're rolling.
I'm going to talk about the thing that I said.
What was that thing that you said?
Well, specifically, you said that there wasn't a significant mechanical difference between this and most Zelda games. And while I agree to a certain extent, I feel like the combat in the Wind Waker is the most fun combat in any 3D Zelda game.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me of this opinion that you have, but never in any detail at all for this exact reason.
Yeah.
Do explain.
Right. Because as we know, in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, they all sort of... The major through line in 3D Zelda games is still there. The way that the combat's set up, you press B to do a sword attack. You have your C buttons that... Or in the GameCube version, that X, Y, and Z buttons?
I don't remember.
I think
so.
That have your excess items and stuff, but they're not needed.
And you hold the L to hold your shield up.
Right. And that's all the same, but I feel like there's a very smart simplicity of this game where once you target onto an enemy, you start entering that strafing mode. But all of your attacks feel so much more fluid. With previous Zelda games, a lot of the combat was focused on finding the weak spot on an enemy, or just waiting until they're vulnerable and then hitting them in between that, or using an item to force that or whatever. And that's all still present, except I feel like most of the time you can really drive how the combat, with each encounter works. Now, there are fewer enemies that just will block your attack and wait and then like put their shield back and then you attack them, when you have the ability to like roll behind them and like do jump attacks like mid like combo. And then there's the really smart parry system that the game has, where you have like a huge A button prompt that comes up that's like, oh, look out, and you hit it, you do the roll behind and come up with the upward slash. It just feels so much more like natural and smooth than combat usually feels in a 3D Zelda game, which is part of the reason why I was so disappointed with Skyward Sword and their new focus on always having to avoid an enemy's block to make an attack.
How is the combat in Twilight Princess worse?
Oh, because I had to think about this because it had been so long since I played Twilight Princess.
Especially with the GameCube controller.
Right. It's been, I don't think
Since you probably greatly prefer
the GameCube
controller.
I don't think I've ever played the GameCube version of
I'm pretty
Twilight
sure
Princess.
it's like just the same as the Wind Waker combat, but with more sword attacks
Could you
at
not
your disposal.
use the GameCube controller in the Wii version of
No.
Twilight?
No, because it was built from the ground up with
For the Wii,
with
yeah.
motion controls. Yeah.
They even they flipped the map from the GameCube version because they made Link right-handed.
I know.
Yeah.
Right. It's I mean, the combat is very similar, and I do appreciate, like, 'cause I just booted the game and played a little bit of it because I didn't realize. The only thing that I don't necessarily find worse is that you have so many different like moves and stuff that I found that I just didn't use most of them. Like, I just ended up doing like basically what you do in the Wind Waker.
But you mean you have like the helm splitter and
Right.
the jump around the back attack.
We're going to get into the same argument again about how the presence of optional unused content...
Well, no. I'm saying I don't think it's worse because of that. I just feel like I didn't use the additional attacks.
It's not... all the additional attacks aren't implemented as well.
Right. But yeah, the combat in Twilight Princess and the combat in Wind Waker are very similar. I just think that Wind Waker's combat is cuter because of cute Link.
It is a little faster.
Right.
And it does feel a little smoother, I think.
Did the Twilight Princess combat system also have on-screen button prompts? Like, did an A button come on the screen?
No. Like, that's all up to you. You have the option to do that roll around the back at any time you want.
Right.
That, I think, is enough for me to actually break in favor of Twilight Princess then.
I
think
know.
putting
I
the A button
prefer
there
the
feels too
Twilight
much
Princess as well.
like a quick time event in context.
Well, I mean, it sort of is, but it's just one that has no penalty. It's just signaling that you have an opportunity to do it.
I don't know how it works in the GameCube version, but like to do the jump around attack, you would just be locked onto the enemy. You would jump twice and then waggle the Wii remote, and he would just jump, roll, and hit them in the back.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Use waggle, not a specific waggle.
Yeah, you don't have to aim.
You just kind of do this.
You just do this.
Well, I don't like waggling anything, so...
Except your dick.
Right.
No, not even that. There's no waggling in Chad's life.
I live in no waggle existence. I don't know, well, okay, I'm not going to argue against the combat system in Twilight Princess, because I've played the game once ever. And it was, 10 years ago at this point?
We scoff at that. You
yeah.
jump only playing a game once when it came out.
But as compared to other 3D Zelda games that aren't the Twilight Princess game, the combat system in Wind Waker feels a lot smoother and more fun to me.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the one that introduced that system in the first place, before horribly backwards regressing it.
I could see I could see the argument for like the little bit more simplicity, making it like more fun and intuitive.
Well, it allows them to throw more enemies at you, like the imp enemies that were created for this game.
Those
horn creatures.
They're so
the ones that are like meh, 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 meh. Yeah, I hate.
They always spawn when the camera is. They always spawn in the opposite place that the camera is looking, and so. But like what it always ends up being is you just you'll readjust the camera. There'll be a horde of them. You do a spin attack, and they all go whoa and explode into cool effects. And you're like, that was neat, and then you move along.
Yeah, but then they keep coming.
That's true. Well, I think they're there to force you through the area.
It's a pun. Because they're little devils and they'll have horns, but they make horn noises all the time.
Right, they go meep meep. I don't think that's what they were going
It might be. I don't know.
Yeah, for all I know, that could be. The Japanese language has a lot of like onomatopoeias built into it, so maybe that is a thing.
I don't know. It seems. I was just confused about the like little horny squirtiness of them. Oh, I guess I can. Yeah, I was confused.
Really, you're gonna just allow me to like just go right by horny squirts like that's. I don't know what you expected when you said horny squirtiness.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, podcast.
Podcast ruined.
I failed you.
Yeah. It's your toilet humor, Eddie. This is a clean show. It's a family show. God damn it.
Yeah.
The moral heart of our podcast, Andy Kinnick.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say,
Yeah.
I like the sound design in the combat in Wind Waker.
That's true.
Like a little like,
Oh!
yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
I love hearing
the best
groans
sound
of hogs.
design.
The
Right.
pigman. I mean, also in Twilight Princess and God damn it, in Wind Waker, and I don't know if it's in Twilight Princess or not, has that like awesome like the musical cues when you land hits. So like if you land like the first hit of a sword combo, it goes whap, and then you hit it, it's like whap whap.
That is actually what I'm referring to, and not to noises.
That's the best sound effect
Yeah.
in the game.
That was
She's
really,
like,
really
thank
satisfying.
you.
That's it's one of those
Or
too.
thank
you.
Okay.
you, thank you.
just like go in and replace a pitch-corrected version of Beatles' "Thank You" into every sword strike. Somebody please do that.
I
Yeah.
don't remember if that's in Twilight Princess.
Like
I feel like it's not.
it would
Or
seem
if
a
it
little
is-
bit more out of place.
I think if it is, it's like a way more subtle
Right.
version.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's amazing. That makes you feel so good.
It is satisfying.
When you land like a full combo and you get that bam at the end.
Mhm.
Yep.
Ooh.
And then like the sound of like their weapon hitting the ground, like the
Ding, ding.
dun, dun, dun.
That's a random feature, by the way.
That's a great feature too.
What,
That
the
you can
ability
just
to
take
use
the
enemy weapons?
weapons.
Why? Why?
It's just
Cool.
neat.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I mean, it's, like I said,
Because
it can't make it
I
worse.
guess-
It's just, why is it there?
I bet
Well, it's
one
a
of the
necessary-
developers just said, like an enemy, like you defeat them, like their weapon would still be there.
Right.
So how about like we like have Link pick it up and use it?
And then
If you
everyone
need-
else was like, but their bodies just explode.
Yeah. I
But,
think like
and
it
that's
seems
supposed to explain
it
why, like,
seems
every
like an
other-
idea that like somebody just came up with, and they were like, "Oh my god!"
Right.
like,
It's a necessary-
Put that in the game.
It's a necessary mechanic in the fortress level because you lose
you don't have the sword. Yep.
So you have to go through and pick up other weapons to use them. And I think the fact that you
forgot
can
about
just
that,
do
actually.
that through the whole game is just like we don't have a justification for not being able to do it. Plus, it gives you a really cool ranged attack because you can just
Hurl
whip
it, yeah.
weapons.
He
at other
throws it
people.
really far.
Yeah.
in a straight line,
Yeah,
too.
like
Which
a
is also
javelin.
insanely satisfying to do.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just forgetting this wrong. I have no
You're
memory.
forgetting it wrong.
No, he's forgetting it so right.
It's his specialty.
God damn it! I can speak, I swear. I don't remember ever using an enemy weapon, even in the fortress level. I thought I
you
just
don't
snuck-
have to.
Yeah, you don't
you,
have
you can just sneak through, right?
Yeah.
I just snuck through it.
No. Well, no, because you actually have to kill the searchlight goblins. But there's a pot
like
of clubs.
of swords, or
Yeah.
whatever.
So you pick up the pot of clubs, and you can use that.
The
to,
pot of
pot of clubs.
like
That's the card I have up my sleeve. The pot of clubs.
What were we talking about?
You can pick up the pot of clubs.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can like smash the guy with it, but then you can just grab one of those weapons and just stroll with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it does allow you to actually like kill some of the enemies in the fortress if you choose to.
Like a cold-blooded murder.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there are because you can't take enemy weapons through doors.
Nope.
So like you can't like it's still like a prescribed mechanic for each area.
Right.
So they like warrant you being able to do it.
I
But
tried really hard to take like the swords that the armored guys have with
oh,
you.
the huge dark knight
Yeah.
swords.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sad.
Also, is there any other game Probably Twilight Princess, based on previous experience with this conversation.
Yeah.
Where you can remove the Darknuts helmets.
Yeah.
Is it in Twilight Princess?
You
Are
can-
they dogs?
You can no. They're
Okay.
like zombies,
It's
man.
so cool that they're like huge Dobermans.
It is cool, but yeah, it's the same. It works the same way as you like defeat them.
You
their
do a
armor
front
falls
flip over
off.
them and
Why
cut
is
their helmet off.
Doberman the go-to evil dog?
Because they just look menacing.
Yeah, they're like physically intimidating.
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess I'm just not physically intimidated by dogs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's-
one could probably murder you.
Yeah, I say this is the last podcast that gets recorded before JJ is murdered by a dog he wasn't afraid of.
Not
But-
even like Rottweilers. Rottweilers scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, they're pretty
They're
terrifying.
huge.
Then why aren't they
and
ever
ferocious? I don't know.
Dogcast podcast.
Dogcast.
Um,
Naughty dog.
Yeah, so
Weapons.
I don't know how you guys feel about the combat in Wind Waker, but I find it incredibly satisfying.
It's literally just the music. Everything else,
Everything else sucks.
it's everything else. I could just take it or leave it. It just seems normal. I like the additional commands as they exist in Twilight Princess because they don't have the on-screen button prompts, so you feel more like it's a thing that you're manipulating to your favor and less like just.
But you can just do it whenever. Like in Wind Waker, it's a parry. In Twilight Princess, it's a strategy.
Yeah, I like
That's
strategy a whole lot more.
obviously more appealing to JJ.
Oh, okay. I like the idea of just like if you like hold your own in combat, it gives you the ability to make the fight easier.
But they misuse it at the end, right? Is in the Ganondorf fight that's just all that is the fight.
Is you
don't
wait
die
for the parry.
and press A.
Well, I already said I don't like the Ganondorf. Well, I mean it's fine. It's
Pretty
fine.
much, with the exception of Ocarina of Time, I think every like Ganondorf fight has been disappointing.
Yeah, it's usually not very
Yeah,
original.
they were always like, it's just a sword fight.
Right.
You versus Ganondorf.
They've never gotten beyond he is invulnerable until X point in time. It's a lot like the criticisms of Kingdom Hearts bosses that I was talking to you about last night.
Right.
They keep trying to like make your one-on-one fight intimidating and imposing by giving the boss like essentially like near constant invulnerability to all the things you can do unless you take advantage of these like one brief moments. But because the brief moments are so prescribed and never feels like you're doing it, you're just essentially following like a writer's script as you're going through the game, and it I think takes a lot of the fun out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... I don't know. I mean, there's time and a place for a boss like that, but it should not be the final boss.
Because like usually they have good build-up too.
Yeah.
And then it's just like...
And then just a flat drop.
Flat drop.
Yeah. And I always liked in Ocarina that, like, you have to escape the crumbling castle and then
That's awesome.
go out back.
That's so N64.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I love it.
Before, like, we get into what is probably going to be a lengthy and annoying discussion on Puppet Ganon.
Yep.
I feel like the boss fights in this game generally, I don't know, I have no idea how you guys feel, so that I'm treading into some unknown water here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the boss fights in this game are pretty much the best ever.
The best boss fights ever.
In
Like,
the Zelda games.
Which ones?
And it is purely because of how good they all look. Like, because every Zelda, like, game has, like, sort of the same structure, and the boss fights all follow that, like, use a thing that you just learn to do
And this
to
game
beat the boss.
also does that.
It does the same thing, but aesthetically, I think that all of these bosses look so good. Because, like, I don't know why, but this cartoony style makes these, like, huge monsters look fucking impeccable.
Yeah. See, I actually think of all the 3D Zelda games, this one has the most forgettable bosses.
Dude.
Because I had just replayed this game
Right.
not that long ago. I remember watching JJ play through it, and he's like in the Earth Temple, and I'm like, I cannot remember what the boss is for this. And then like he got to the Wind Temple, and I'm like, I can't remember what the boss is for this. And like that's really unusual for me to like
Right.
not remember.
You have to remember, like, the moment in the plant boss where you cut the
yeah, I remember
vines
that
down,
one, yeah.
and it hits, unfolds, and then the fucking whole arena just lights up blue.
Like all this.
Like when it comes out and the spores shoot up.
Yeah, they do look great.
And the music changes.
I remember
think it
that
looks
now
so
that you
good.
just said it. But
Well, I'm not expecting you to.
Yeah, me forgetting a thing is not evidence that it is a forgettable thing.
Right. And like cracking the shell on the Dragon Roost Island boss.
That's the only one I actually remember outside of like main bosses.
Yeah, I definitely remember that because you use the dragon's tail.
Yeah, you just yank on them.
Yeah,
very cartoony and fun. What are the other ones? Do you even remember?
Forsaken Fortress, you fight the bird.
Right.
Bird was cool.
Bird was cool. Not as much of like a big thing as it was like implied to be.
Right.
Like it seemed as though it was really just like a bird doing this for kicks.
Does the Tower of the Gods have a boss fight?
What is the Tower of the Gods?
The dungeon you do before you go down to the bottom of the ocean?
Oh.
See, like, I don't remember. I find that to be the case with, like, all the bosses.
I mean, to be fair, I haven't played this game in a while.
Right.
Listeners psychically screaming at us, please continue to do so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find them to, like, in general, to be kind of forgettable compared to other Zelda games.
I don't know. I only remember 2 Ocarina bosses, so...
I could probably name you every single Ocarina boss.
Majora is the easiest one for me, but that's because
There's
not
only
only
4.
do you fight them multiple times, they also, like, there are only 4 of them, so that's real easy. Wind Waker's got 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
But
one
I think
of
they
my
all look
favorite
really
Zelda
good.
bosses of all time
Is Puppet
is
Ganon.
Puppet Ganon.
All
And
right.
JJ does not like it.
So,
And I think it's pretty good.
who's going to make the opening statement and who's going to rip the other's opening statement?
You
to
make the
shreds?
opening statement.
All right.
Because I have like a counter argument to your argument.
All right. So, the Puppet Ganon boss has 3 forms. The first form is incredibly cheap and tries to be smart by just removing a mechanic that is like... It is present in all Zelda boss interactions, including in that fight, before and after it.
For the
Hold
benefit
on. Wait,
of
let
the
him,
listeners and myself,
I
what is the first form of
Let
Puppet-
him
I'm
finish
getting-
his
Alright.
his
will
statement.
feed you, my sweet baby bird.
Alright.
It's... The first form is it's literally a puppet. It's like a weird pig
Marionette.
thing with like a bunch of balls. Cool visual design. Puppet boss,
Awesome
also
visual
cool
design.
idea. You can... While the boss is coming at you, being all menacing and sort of evil, you can lock on with the boomerang as you expect you could, and like you can cut all the strings and you cut them all at the same time, and it begins to drag around, real menacing like. And after you cut them all, but it can't really do much of anything anymore. What you're supposed to do is shoot the tail, which is like this blue ball that's like larger and like noticeably discolored from the rest of the boss, with a light arrow, which is the item you get exactly before, as you would expect of a Zelda game. But you can't lock onto the tail. And it's the only thing in the whole game that you have to shoot to progress that you can't lock onto. So that's stupid. Second form is the... I think it's a scorpion, right? That's
a spider.
It's a spider. Which is pulled up onto the ceiling and drops down on you. And
You know, like spiders do.
Yeah, they're
Just like smash their prey into the ground.
they're huge feet.
Yeah.
If spiders were part pig,
That's what they would do, yeah.
And you've got to beat this one by hitting the tail more, and you can only hit the tail side by being in a position where the spider falls on you, because the legs trap you in like different compartmentalized areas of the arena. So you have to be in the right place at the right time. And after I managed to beat that whole section without actually realizing the thing I was supposed to do, which is like looking at like water on the floor so you can see where the spider is on the ceiling.
Right.
So I was capable of just beating the boss without using the whole like mechanic trick that the fight was designed around, just by essentially rolling into outer areas and not being hit by anything. So I think designing a boss in which you can functionally beat it without doing the thing the boss was designed to be beaten with, specifically in a Zelda game, is a failure on their part. And then the third form,
The turd form.
it is also vaguely turdish. Yes, it's like the snake that crawls around on the ground at super high speed and runs to get you. As far as I'm aware, and this might also just be a memory forgetting, there isn't even a trick to that fight.
There is.
It just moves real fast is super hard to hit, and you have to like block it constantly. And I just randomly swung in different directions while it came at me, and eventually won by just doing random movements. It's the only time in any Zelda game I've played a fight where I beat the whole thing and never felt smart once.
Huh.
Because I had to be told how to beat the first part, because I tried everything. Like, every combination of items on everything I could lock onto. I even interacted with the blue tail part you're supposed to hit with the light arrow, but I didn't like every other possible way. I tried to, like, equip the iron boots so I could grab a hold of it and swing it around like you can in
Mario 64.
and in one boss in Majora's Mask. In the last pre-boss, there were like these flying snake things that you turn big and you're like,
oh yeah, that does happen, I guess.
So I tried to do that by equipping the iron boots and had a little strength gauntlet so I could throw it. Couldn't do anything. Hammered it, nothing. Sorted it, nothing. I just never used the specific right kind of light arrow on the thing that I couldn't lock onto, and so I didn't progress until he told me. Literally, what, like 40 minutes into me just
40 minutes.
How long was I stuck there?
It was maybe like 20 max.
Sure. I'll grant that. 20 minutes of sort of on the first form of this boss fight without being able to do anything to interact with it or having any, like, and lacking the most significant hint you can possibly have in a Zelda fight. I didn't even know it was a thing you could interact with. I was just guessing, and my guesses were wrong every single time.
Alright,
So
counter-argument time. Counter-argument time.
Yeah.
This boss, I think... I'll make my opening statement here. Gotta sort out my thoughts. I think more Zelda bosses should be designed like this. Because this boss plays out kind of like if you didn't know anything about Zelda and you like had it explained to you, like how you would think a Zelda boss would play out, because it's like a puzzle. Like, I would make the argument that most Zelda bosses are too intuitive, because like most Zelda bosses are really easy.
Yeah.
Like, you go in, you know immediately like what to do, how to execute it, and it's never hard. That's like at least like 85% of Zelda bosses.
Right. And the other 15% is waiting.
Yeah. And this boss, you roll in, and you already have like the hint of like you've had to fight a boss where you have to cut it off the ceiling. So you know, like, okay, like I'll try to cut Puppet Ganon down. The strings are like bright blue.
Yeah.
Totally stand out.
Right.
Only other thing that is bright blue is the ball on the end of his tail. So you figure, you're supposed to think, your thought process here, I can cut the strings, those are interactable, the tail must also be. That's why you're supposed to focus on it. You just got the light arrows, so you're supposed to be like, okay, I've played a Zelda game before, I'll shoot it with a light arrow.
But using the light arrows does nothing to the strings. You can't lock onto the tail like you can lock onto the strings.
Right.
And using the boomerang does nothing to the tail.
You can't lock onto the strings. They target it with the boomerang.
Yeah,
the boomerang
you can't
has
lock
different mechanics than other things.
You can't lock onto the strings either.
Yeah. It's just like it puts
so
the
like
markers
you
on
you
them.
have to use your brain to put the pieces together. You have to like think. It feels the most like I've like collected this arsenal of weapons, and now like it's like a test of like how can you use your arsenal to beat the boss.
And that arsenal is the weapon you just got, and the boomerang. And I know you don't need to use a specific weapon on the second form, but you told me there's a secret good way to do the third form?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think the first form's that hard to figure out.
Right.
Apparently,
I honestly don't. I did not remember that you couldn't lock on.
that
to the tail.
does seem weird,
Right.
but I don't think it's bad.
I don't necessarily think it is, considering I don't think that I had a
'Cause
problem with it when I
It's
was
throwing us like
14.
it's throwing you like a similar problem in a different way,
Right.
which I think is something that like Zelda games should do more of instead of just feeding you stuff where you have the same thought process.
Right.
But anyway, and then the second part is like a classic Zelda thing. Like I don't know how you didn't figure out like look at the water to see the boss on the ceiling, but whatever.
I didn't have to. That was the point.
True, but like, there's plenty of bosses where you don't have to do the specific thing that you like are supposed to do to beat it.
And
What?
not just in Zelda games.
Yeah, like
in games in general, there are lots of
there's
bosses
always like there's
that
like
exist.
always
Sure, in games in
exploits.
general, but in Zelda games specifically, even in this game,
Like
Well, you have to say 3D Zelda
Like-
games when you say it, because like
Sure.
in a Link to the Past, you just walk in and hit it with the sword.
75% of the floor is covered in water in this
Right.
fight. Like
it seems
you,
difficult that you wouldn't be
You
able
ran
to see
around the
boss.
perimeter and never walked onto the water for
because
some
he fell
reason.
into the center. That's where his body was. That was a dangerous location to be.
Whatever.
Oh man,
that's like, I think that's pretty intuitive that you like would walk over the water to see his reflection.
my argument isn't even that that's particularly hard. My argument is that it's not necessary, and
But-
thus uninteresting.
But it's not necessary if you want to solve the boss, beat the boss by pure dumb luck alone.
And I was able to do that in a completely timely manner.
I would probably have not considered whatever you just said was timely as timely. I probably would have been sitting here pulling my hair out.
To beat the whole boss, you probably took like 45 minutes. So that's not very timely.
Right.
I don't believe that I spent more time on Forms 2 and 3 combined than Form 1, because we already established that I spent 20 minutes on Form 1.
Not that much time on Form 2, but also a lot of time on Form 3.
Yes.
But okay, so I would argue that the second part is actually the easiest form and is pretty intuitive and pretty standard Zelda boss fare.
Yeah.
And then the third form I think is the most like difficult to figure out. But the way it works is the way you're supposed to approach this is, I think what they're going for is like, you're supposed to have like this oh shit moment, like it's going so fast, like I don't know what to do.
Sure.
Right.
And like what you're supposed to do is like stand back and observe it and notice that it bashes into the walls.
Right.
And then like if you come near it, it like focuses on you and then just charges right at you.
Yeah.
So what you're supposed to do is notice that's its pattern, and then after it's bashing into the walls and turns to you, you put a bomb down. It comes across, hits the bomb, and is stunned. You run around and hit the tail.
Ah, okay. So that's the method of starting the creature.
Also, there's like a weird little exploit that they put in. Is like, I guess, like an Easter egg, not like an exploit, but like a little, I guess, Easter egg is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
You can use the bait from your bait bag. It'll come over to it and it'll just circle the bait.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they included that. It's a cool
So the whole boss, I think, is completely legitimately like feasible to figure out.
Right.
It plays out more like a puzzle, and it's like it throws you a curveball. It does, and I like that.
Can you lock onto the tail on that boss? Or in that
No,
form?
you can never lock onto the tail.
Okay.
Yep.
Which does seem like a weird choice, but I don't think it's a bad one.
Right. Well, yeah, it's certainly not necessary in the second part, because whenever it's vulnerable, you're in like a 3 foot by 7 foot like area with it. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't even remember using bombs on the third form, because it's been so long. I don't remember.
You can just kind of like snipe its tail, like you can just try and get lucky.
Right.
Which is what I had to do.
But I mean, can't you just like, when it comes at you, roll to the side, wait for the tail to take a swing?
No, it moves too fast.
Also, the sword doesn't hurt the tail.
You had to shoot it with a light arrow.
If in that case, I'm almost 100% positive that I didn't use a bomb and just shot it with the arrows, because I just like shooting things with arrows. That's probably also why I didn't have a problem with the first part, because I spent most of the game not locking onto stuff.
I also think Splatoon really helped me to be able to actually aim, because I played the HD re-release, so it was you can choose if you wish to use motion controls for all the reticle aiming. So
This is, I know I've brought up before, is weirdly the one game series where I feel like motion controls helps immensely.
It's Splatoon.
In Zelda. Because I played the Ocarina remake on the
3DS.
The 3DS, and it was like,
Oh, the turning for the
yeah,
camera?
you use the gyroscope in it to like fine tune your aiming or whatever. And I remember struggling with that stupid heart piece minigame where you have to use the bow and shoot like all the targets.
Yeah.
And like once I was like got used to the gyroscope controls, it was just like one shot, like one next, and knocked all like every aiming game out. I don't know why Zelda fits so well with gyroscope aiming.
just don't use it for swords ever.
Yeah,
Just
no
use it-
motion.
Yeah, oh yeah. Do not use it with swords. That's terrible. A lesson from me.
Now, I played the game with the Pro controller, so I didn't use the gyroscope aiming.
Okay.
So I can't comment on that.
If Puppet Ganon's decisions and all of these design things, instead of being errors, were like conscious choices of things that they believe would like lead to a better
they absolutely
boss.
are that.
Why
There's no
are-
way it's an accident.
Why is literally none of them implemented in the actual final boss fight of the game? There's no lesson from Puppet Ganon that's applied to Ganondorf himself.
I think it's
Because
not
I think
supposed to
it's
be
just
build
part-
up. It's supposed to be like the test. at the end that you apply all your skills to.
So then they built in consciously made the choice that the Ganondorf fight would be disappointing by comparison. I don't believe that.
It's just a different goal. It's supposed to like focus more on the sword fighting. Whereas
I always view it
the
as
Ganon boss was supposed to be more of like the item use.
But the sword fighting is irrelevant in the Ganondorf fight.
Yeah.
All that matters is you hit A at the right time.
Right.
Well, I hate that fight, so
Yeah,
I
that's
don't,
my
I don't
point.
hate the fight. I just think it's basically standard.
If they had created like this pre-final boss fight with Puppet Ganon,
right.
where they were trying to apply all these new lessons and things that they thought could like demonstrably improve boss fights to the series that had previously been lacking.
No, I don't think that was their goal. I think that's just what I view it as.
Sure. If you think that was their goal, and that they saved it to the end because they wanted, for example, they understood to increase the difficulty and they wanted to push it back a little bit, then why was the final Ganon fight so bad by comparison? They ignored like every lesson that you think that is good about that fight, and they made the final Ganon fight just like a complete drudgery through everything you'd expect from a Zelda game.
Well,
I
don't think they have to both try to accomplish the same thing. I just think they both had very different goals.
Yeah, I don't know why you wanted the puppet Ganon fight to transition into the regular Ganon fight as if it was like the same boss.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they would apply the same lessons to the two fights. They'd make the Ganon fight that came after it equally sort of creative and non-obvious in its solutions, the things you had to do to go forward with it.
Well, that's just Zelda shittery. Being like, oh, we're going to put a Ganon fight in that's just like every other Ganon fight, and then you just sit and do it, and then you watch
Yeah,
the
like
credits.
for some reason they always just have like a different goal with the final Ganondorf fight that's like never in line with like the rest of the game.
But what is the goal of all these final Ganon fights?
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
we
actually
can
like
tell.
a great topic of discussion.
Yeah,
because
if
it's like literally except for Ocarina of Time, the Ganondorf fight's always disappointing.
But the Ganondorf fight is usually just a rehash of the Ocarina of
Yeah,
Time anyway. That's
yeah.
why it's disappointing. It's like, why not?
Because like in Twilight Princess is a great example. Because like the lead-in is awesome. Like you do the possessed Zelda, which is a great idea.
Yep.
Then you do like the huge Beast Ganon fight as the wolf,
With
which
the
is
musical shift?
yeah, which is awesome.
Except for the part where you have to play as the wolf.
I hate you, Chad.
That's a topic for another video, which is awesome. And then they're like, "Oh, now you got to ride a horse." Sorry. And then you're
Sorry
like,
about that.
but then you're like, "Okay, I did that," and like, you're like, now I get to fight Ganondorf.
Yeah.
I did.
And like, now I get to fight Ganondorf. It's just a sword fight. It's not hard. It's
Right.
not like thematically cool. It's not anything. It's just a sword fight, and it's disappointing.
Yeah.
Like that's the way it always is.
Mhm.
Like the fight before the final fight is usually like what I think of as the final boss. Like in my mind, Puppet Ganon is the final boss of
Yeah,
Wind
it's just
Waker.
like the credits sequence that you
Yeah.
go through where you're like, I have to fight Ganon.
and it shouldn't be that way.
Right.
But that's just the way it usually is.
Yeah. As someone who loves Zelda games, it's a game series that is based upon the idea that the game is more about the journey than the destination. Like,
Yeah.
literally from the first game, it's more about actually getting, like what you do to get to where you go. And Wind Waker does an amazing job of
Doing
doing that, especially in their dungeon design. And, like, the final bosses, to me, have always been more of a spectacle than they are, like, a real challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think...
Because the way the final fight looks, you're on top of the tower with all the water pouring in, is super cool.
Yeah. Looks really good.
You're correct. It looks great, but I don't even find the Ganon fights in general interesting from a spectacle perspective. Like I don't.
Ganondorf
the fights
or Ganon?
themselves. God damn it, Ganondorf, the man and not the
Okay,
beast, in
yes.
all of the Ganondorf fights. I guess I'm having a hard time phrasing this now because it's a very good point that all of the things that generally we dislike about the Ganondorf fights are generally things that are normally included in games to up their spectacle. It's the whole point of like the new wave reaction commands afterwards because there was an excuse to do like really really beautiful things.
Yeah, like crazy animations and stuff.
Yeah, but like the animations that you go through in that fight, with the exception of like the very ending when you stab him in the head, which is
glorious,
aren't that impressive. The fight itself isn't that impressive. He just spins a lot.
Yeah. It's just supposed to be like a mano sword fight.
Right.
The background is beautiful.
Yeah. Really sweet.
I don't think
and it's also,
any of the mainline Zelda fights should be like an actual test. I can understand this might be a bit of a skeptical statement because it's sort of it's an odd statement, but yeah, I'm not playing any Zelda game for the same reason that I would play like Dark Souls. I do not treat any of these games as like an active test of me, and I'm not looking to be tested when I play a Zelda game, and that's just my honest opinion.
Well, I mean, when you look at...
I'd say that's a different opinion than most people have.
Well,
because it's like a puzzle adventure game.
But as you just admitted, like the vast majority of the time, the puzzles aren't hard.
No,
we're
talking
about. I think
the bosses.
I think that's a problem. No, not the puzzles. I think the bosses.
Yeah, the bosses. Because like, given like as much pomp that the Zelda franchise has, it is one of the last like true video games that like really does just like set you out. Like, here's the context for your adventure. Go do this stuff. You are like an unabashed like hero with no moral problems whatsoever. Like, just rolls in with a desire to do good and does good. And like the bosses are just like kind of expected. It's like
they're like icing on the cake,
right? And like if you ask anyone what like the hardest
top.
or most memorable part of any Zelda game is, they're probably not going to give you a boss. Unless they think that boss was bullshit.
But what will they give you?
They'll be like a popular one. This is probably not my wheelhouse. To give you a popular example of something people claim is like the hardest part of a Zelda game, but people often talk about like the Fire Temple in Ocarina of Time was really memorable because like it has this cool like look to it, and the puzzles were difficult to solve.
And the Muslim chant.
And the Muslim chant thing, which is entirely separate, or like the most memorable part of Majora's Mask is probably failing, like having the moon hit clock down and stuff like that. It's not like
Phantom
a boss
Ganon fight is a memorable boss fight.
The Phantom Ganon
fight? The Forest Temple in Ocarina.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that I didn't remember it.
Yeah,
but I totally agree.
I love. There's like it's a lot of like dungeons and like moments like that are memorable in Zelda.
And that like falls in line with the journey
from Twilight Princess.
Right.
Super awesome.
Yeah, and that falls in line with the whole journey versus the destination thing. I feel like most of the time what people are going to talk about when they talk about a Zelda game is the experience of playing the game and not like overcoming a particularly difficult boss fight. Unless it's Georg, because he's total bullshit.
But even saying overcoming, at least in the context of the Puppet Ganon fight, is I think a bit misleading. Because I wasn't difficult in the sense that I was being like harried by some force, that I was just barely like staying alive and opposing, and it was overcoming me again and again, and I was losing. The problem was that the Puppet Ganon fight often presented little to no threat to me, and I had trouble figuring something out. So it was virtually indistinguishable from like me encountering some kind of puzzle wall that would exist in the other game, and that's detrimental to the boss, because then the boss doesn't feel imposing. It feels just like a feature of the room that I had to learn something about. It's no longer a thing that like is attacking me.
I disagree with that completely. I like that the boss plays out more like a puzzle. I think that's fitting of Zelda itself, right. And I like the Puppet Ganon is really like creepy and scary.
Oh, the aesthetic's fine.
Yeah, like, and I mean, like, he's plenty threatening. I mean, like, he can like easily kill you in the third form.
Particularly if you go through the game with like minimum number of heart containers. Like, if you actively search everything out, like, there's not a difficult Zelda game. Like,
right.
If you're the kind of person who actively searches out heart pieces and, God forbid, gets the Fierce Deity mask in Majora, like...
I did?
Yeah, it's fucking... Yeah, it makes the Majora fight not a fight. Zelda games are not generally
It's not about
really
the
hard.
fight, yeah.
Yeah, it's about like the
It's
puzzles
about
are
solving the
hard.
puzzle,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's why I think I like that boss so much, because it's solving a puzzle.
Right. Or blindly rolling into corners,
Yeah.
I guess. I've literally never known anyone to do that until just now, so...
I've said my piece on this. I don't think there's anything more that I want to add, so...
Right.
I'll let the listeners decide.
You send us an email at nuclearpodcast@gmail.com.
If you agree with me,
Like,
I will
like
send
it-
you an email
I
that says
like
good
it
job.
for the same reasons I like the Castle Temple in Twilight Princess. Like, I don't know if you remember watching Janelle play through that.
I do.
It presents you similar puzzles that you've seen on the whole journey, but like in a different way, which trips you up. And I think that's something that should be present in Zelda more often. Because like there's like simple puzzles there, but they're hard for you to figure out because like it's a different mindset.
Right. I also feel like the Wind Waker's aesthetic quality gives it sort of a disadvantage at trying to give you like a more free-form use of your items to solve puzzles, because it's like, oh, if I'm going to use the claw shot, or the hook
shot.
the
Shot
grappling
foot.
hook.
Oh, the grappling
Yeah,
hook.
if I'm going to use the grappling hook, it's going to be a thing that has like a bar with smooth wood in the middle of
Yeah.
it, because that's just how that was designed, and it's weird in the environment to just be able to like latch onto something. So it never really works out that way. But
That's why they always include, strong signals like that, because they can't make everything interactable with all of their items. Things like being able to lock on to particular sections of
Right.
creatures, so you can narrow down. You don't have to try and claw shot individual pieces of armor.
But I
on
mean,
the
you
guy or
can
something.
you can lock onto any enemy, and it doesn't indicate what item to use on
Or
them.
where to hit them.
Right.
It totally, by definition, it indicates where to hit them.
Yeah, in the enemy.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
usually
Yeah.
with most enemies and even bosses, when you lock onto them, it doesn't lock specifically onto the hand or you're supposed to hit them. It's just on the boss itself.
Right.
That's not true. No, it'll lock on straight into if there's an eye,
It's
you're
always-
straight on the eye.
It's just
if-
always central to the enemy.
You're talking about bosses where it does lock onto
Parts of
sometimes
those huge thing.
Yeah,
But not
but on
always,
a regular
though.
enemy, like a Dark Knight has a particular way that you're supposed to fight him, and it's easier to beat a bubble with the hook shot than it is to try and hit it with your sword. And being able to lock on doesn't indicate how you're supposed to beat it. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You can lock on to, what was the other, Voldar. I'm so at a loss.
Voldar?
I have no idea.
You keep trying to reference the proper nouns in
Yeah.
a Zelda game.
The lava worm boss. The
Goma?
dragon. Goma. Yeah, that's it. I just made up words. That wasn't an educated guess at all. It locks onto his eye, which yes, you do have to hit, but it doesn't.
You have
lock
to do the
onto-
grappling hook onto the tail to hit him.
And also, you have to grappling hook onto the tail
Yeah.
on the. That's what you say.
That's what I said, yeah.
You also have to pull him in. To
Right, and you can't lock onto the tail, but you still figure that out.
Yeah, which you have to aim at.
But it certainly narrows it a whole lot more than what do I shoot on this thing.
Oh, I gotta say, the color coding is supposed to be the clue.
Right. I don't know.
It's
We
the only
spent
other
like
thing-
20 minutes
the
on
only
Puppet
other thing you
Ganon
can
Boss.
interact with is the blue string. So you're like, okay, I could hit those. I'll try to hit the blue tail.
Right.
I didn't even notice they were blue.
They're like electric blue in a dark room.
Because they were electric. They're magical.
They're
It's electric.
and it's
Boogie Woogie.
You gotta feel it. It's electric.
Please send your condolences to whoever one of us you think has been murdered by the other at the
Right.
end of this podcast.
Way to fish for condolences.
Yeah.
I love condolences. Are you
Overall,
kidding?
I think
Great.
they're Zelda bosses should be more challenging. That's why I really like Puppet Ganon.
Yeah, it's whatever. Boats, swords, bombs,
Goblins?
Bakoblin.
bokoblins. What haven't we discussed? I
Well,
mean,
I got something.
Okay.
Legitimately, is something that newer Zelda games I think haven't done as well, but that Ocarina and Wind Waker do really well. Is you feel more of an attachment to the world because of the sage characters.
Oh, like
Yeah,
the
like
the
in
Star Wars
Ocarina,
levels.
like you feel more like involved in like what's going on, like the fate of the world because you've like made friends
Right.
as Link and as you the player. Like in the world, like you're like, oh, I got to save the Gorons because I helped that Goron and he named his son after me.
Yeah.
You know, like you feel like a connection. You're like, oh, I care about the Zoras because of the connection to Princess Ruto, blah blah blah, etc. etc.
Right.
And this Wind Waker also does that by having Makar and Medley. Like you care, and they get to go through the temples with them. Like you care about those characters.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just you feel more about like saving the world because you're connected to the characters.
And then they subverted that in a really interesting manner in Majora's Mask by making you like impersonate dead people who want your help.
Well, that's more of like a side effect of it. I feel like in Majora is the game where you most feel connected to
Right.
characters.
Right. That's
But
like
less
a
so to the world.
right. That's like a specific goal of that game.
Yeah.
And it like it's much different than the other Zelda games. So.
Majora is a game.
It's a different.
Yeah.
Different.
Ocarina of Time is a game, an adventure game where the end of the world is looming. In Majora, it's a character drama where the end of the world is looming, much more literally. And Wind Waker is after the world has ended.
Right.
You're
trying to save what's left of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
But you just feel
you
feel more directly involved because of those characters, which just don't exist in newer Zelda games.
Which is a fairly miraculous accomplishment. Like if you felt that way, considering how like spaced out everything is.
Yep.
It's hard to feel a connection to a character when you're a million miles away from them,
Right.
like on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, that cute little Makar.
Yeah,
He
Makar's
is
pretty
like
great.
the most adorable thing
Is it-
on planet
I
Earth.
said Jingle Bell that plays the violin and it is a leaf. And he's great.
And it's also a leaf.
It's like a potato sack. That's what I always thought they looked like.
That's fair.
I think they're supposed to look like
I think
stumps.
it's supposed to. Yeah, like yeah, exactly that. Good work.
You don't want to talk about Jingle?
I mean, I don't think that he's the. Well, I mean, I don't know. Tingle as a character is pretty bad in every Zelda
I
game.
think
except
he's
this one.
really interesting though.
I think he's creepy.
Yeah, like he's such a weird character that they only throw in occasionally.
Right.
He has slaves.
Yeah, he keeps his brothers as slaves in this game. What are they even doing?
They're
Pushing a wheel
Why? What does it do?
to spin the tower.
so that he can look and make charts, Tingle charts.
Wow, you can't just like walk
Nope.
to the different sides.
Yeah, if you really hate Tingle, then I'd say Majora's Mask does him slightly better because in order to talk to him, you have to drop him 20 feet to the ground.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no,
But
he's
yeah,
weird.
I just think he's like incredibly interesting as a character.
I don't know.
You should buy that, I think, Japanese-only Tingle
It's
game.
European, weirdly.
What?
Yeah, you can get it. You can get a European version of it.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm actually like really want to play that game.
It does actually look pretty good, but it's just a game about how greedy Tingle is.
Yeah.
Tingle is like the Wario of the Zelda series.
Oh, he's like the Waluigi because he's just like super weird.
right.
He's not as unknown as Waluigi.
Right.
Waluigi is like a background force of the universe.
Yeah,
There's
What?
there's nothing known about Waluigi at all. He just
He
came
just-
to existence.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's like gravity. He's just a thing that's around,
Right.
and no one appears to like really know much about his like existence or.
Except he
He's just-
could be gone and no one would care.
he's just anti-Luigi.
Oh, people
Yeah.
would care. I
So-
would care.
I would care too.
I would not care.
I like the random, like really weird ass Nintendo characters.
Okay.
Yep.
I've always been a fan of Birdo personally.
That totally counts.
That's a weird ass.
Yeah.
Androgynous
That's what I was
egg
going
thing.
for. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that I have an affinity
It's
for.
like like Hubert and Yoshi like got together.
Right.
Yeah. Ah, wow. Never heard that before.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really accurate.
This is some pretty good, relevant discussion.
Anything else?
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like there's lots of stuff that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Like all the characters that exist on like Windfall Island are really like expressive and have their own backstories that you can piece together, or they'll just tell you outright.
Yeah.
Like the guy who sells you the sail is like has like the
The
he has-
Eskimo,
yeah,
or
he
the
looks like
Inuit.
an Inuit, has like a big parka on, and
I think it just must do with the art style of the game as it does with any other storytelling elements, though.
Because everyone has to look so different for you to have like a visual idea of who
I
they
also
are.
really like the Killer Bees.
Oh yeah, the Killer Bees, that group of street punks. For your benefit, they're doing the Killer Bees like strut right now.
And
I'm sure that they grew up to be a rockabilly
that
band.
girl you have to like follow around the thief.
Oh yeah, the ex-millionaire girl.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's cute. I don't think anything that was really stand out though in comparison to other Zelda games or action games as a whole. It just seems expected.
I don't know about games as a whole.
Action games as a whole.
I don't know about action games as a whole.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. I can't think of other games that do those kinds of things.
You just have NPCs with their own little like dialogue trees.
I mean, that exists, but
histories?
like...
I think there's
mean
little
the
like
design.
interactivity.
Yeah. I think that interactivity is something that's expected from NPCs, but I feel like the design
The
that went
way,
into the Wind Waker's NPCs is pretty spectacular. I'm not saying it's completely unique, I'm just saying that it is well done. It's just, I don't know, it's another step to make the world seem real. But that's like, we could literally, like, any game that we talk about be like, there are a few steps to make this world seem really real.
Yeah.
Super real. But no, I mean, honestly, there are lots of things that we could get into and nitpick. Dungeon design, like this and that about each dungeon if we really wanted to. But as an overall thing, I think that we've hit the main points.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you know what to expect. It's a Zelda game, and you've touched on all the things that make it worthy of unique discussion of this cast.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I pulled aside as being one of my favorites is just because I like Zelda games, and that has to be like an expected thing when going in. Like, I wouldn't say that if you walked away from a Zelda game before and were like, this isn't for me. Picking up the Wind Waker just because I think it's the best, I don't think gives you the idea that like this game is going to change your mind on it. Mm-hmm. Like, it does follow the same kind of thing, but I just think it does it particularly well. I think it executes the Zelda formula in a way that's different enough and rewards exploration enough and is cute and attractive enough to like really kind of draw me in. It's a game that keeps me like happy when I'm playing it.
I'm glad you're happy, Chad.
I'm glad, dude.
You're a glad dude.
Yeah.
I thought you said you're glad dude.
I'm glad, dude.
Sounds like a superhero.
Word.
I'm
glad dude. Glad man. With the proportional strength and agility of a black trash bag.
You could also be one of those little plastic Tupperware containers.
Oh yeah, I guess it's true.
Don't get mad.
I don't know which is stronger than those by like any metric or ratio. We should go test that right now.
Thank you for listening to No Clip this week.
Brought to you by Glad.
Yeah, and Taco Bell.
And Tic Tacs.
And yeah,
Not just a mint.
And the Steam
It's a
controller.
Tic-Tac.
Not just a controller.
It's a
Tic
Tic
Tac.
Email us. Yeah.
You can get a hold of us as per usual at noclippodcast@gmail.com, noclippodcast.com, where this episode will be posted, our YouTube page, which you currently just have to search NoClip and find our sick logo in order to get a hold of. Sick logo. Our Twitter account set up at NoClipPodcast. That's basically all the contact information we have.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
if you can find any other ways to contact us, don't. I would really that would scare us greatly. So
or do so that we can cover like whatever security flaw. I'll just get like a letter. We'll show up at my house and be like, "Hey, I found you."
But what are we going to talk about next time?
Next time,
Transistor.
we'll be talking about 2 weeks from now, November. Anyone know? I think the the 28th?
Something like that? I don't
Man,
know.
that's really long.
The 28th.
Yeah.
Why do we have to wait that long?
Well, the safest way to do it would be to release annually. See you guys next year. The Bra Blast Pod Broad Blastcast.
For explosives and women.
The Horny Squirts Podcast.
What have I done?
Wow, you're just like blowing my mind.